Okay, and we are back. For
Nice.
those who will one day listen to this in a fucking time capsule years from now, um, they won't know that we were away, but we are back and ready to ball. Ready to ball up.
So now remind me, we left, if I remember correctly, we left off with some really aggressive guy signing on with uh, Junior, right? Because
Yeah,
Junior wants to expand his business, and to do that, it's basically going to be all personal injury
it's
cases,
going to be all
pretty much for
personal
forever.
injury, and they need to have a lot of clients to make that work, especially because personal injury clients are not usually repeat clients unless they keep getting injured, and then after a while that they would look suspicious anyway. Um, so wait, when I do this tab, you can't see me.
No, I can't.
What the fuck, StreamYard? All right, fine. Because I have to read it. All right, unless I can wait a second. I have an idea. All right, now if I do this, can you see me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I had to do a split screen. All right.
Nice.
All right, so let's see. Where did we leave off? I know so I gotta go. Oh my, there's so much. This is fucking legislative history of these two gentlemen. Let's see. Okay. So yeah, so they needed a lot of cases, and the legal world was changing. They started to advertise more, um, because before that, lawyers weren't really advertising. It was going against, their creed. But then there was
Right,
even
right.
a there was even a what we drinking today?
This is a Hetty Topper from The Alchemist.
Sounds good. Sounds alchemy. E.
It's it's pretty good. It only shows up like once or twice a year out here, so I got to get it whenever I see it. What do you have?
Only when the alchemist rolls up to the to
That's
the
right.
Bay Area.
That's right.
I made myself a nice Italian cocktail. Used some aperitivos. Put those together. One is called Cochi Americano, and the other one is called Italicus. Mix that with some gin, some tonic, some lemon,
I do like the idea that
and we
they
got
that
this.
they they named it after what they thought Americans do all day, which is Coke.
Cochi. I know. I'm sure Americans will call it Cochi, even, but in Italian it's pronounced Cochi. Uh, but yes, I love making a good aperitivo before the meal. So anyway, so I'm sure this guy Bart was having a lot of aperitivos because he was selling ads for 25 million. He was raking in 25 million
Goddamn.
and spending millions of dollars on ads. And he is the inspiration for Cellino and Barnes because in the 90s, after lawyers started advertising more, in this case I told you about that was ruled on that Supreme Court says it's free speech, nothing wrong with that. So he's kind of the pioneer of this, and they said, yeah, spending millions works. So we're in 1997 now. It's 5 years after Barnes was hired to the practice. So we are in the era officially now of Cellino and Barnes. But
Okay.
there was just three lawyers. They added another lawyer who's not named yet. But then they decided to add someone to help them with their marketing. So they ended a MBA. Daryl's uh, Cham, I think in Italian it would be Ciambella, but he probably pronounces it Sambella or Ciambella, who is charged with writing the business plan and developing the commercials. So this guy created what we will all know eventually as the famous ads. So
Okay.
that shows me the balls they had, said Mark Cantor, our local attorney who worked with Rich Barnes. I guess adding a non-lawyer for this is balls. He recalls hearing the firm had taken the entirety of its fee for a 3 million settlement and used it to make ads. So also the amount of money they're putting to ads was not normal at the time, especially up in Buffalo, you know. Who
Sure.
knows what can 3 million buy in Buffalo? Probably all of Buffalo.
At least one buffalo.
At least one. Back in the 90s. Um, yeah. So at that time, when lawyers settled cases for lots of money, you take the money. This is quote. They didn't take one penny of it. That was incredible to have put that much faith in advertising. Now it's the norm, but then it was a big deal. So a lot of them took notice, and a lot of them griped that the clients were being lured away to Cellino and Barnes, but as is business, through their aggressive advertising, that's what sticks in the craw of most lawyers in Western New York. I don't know what a craw is. I know a crawfish. What sticks in a craw?
It's just an expression, man.
I know, but it must mean something.
Listen, I don't want to think about what they named it after. Could be anything. Probably not pretty.
Well, some of them are fishes. That's all I know. They are financially successful, but not because some shots being fired, some craws being fired. They are financially successful not because of the good job done on previous cases, but because of advertising cases. So this is the Western New York chisme tea that's being formed. So the firm expanded after the partners commissioned their jingle. Uh, I believe at this time it's the jingle we know, the 888888888 blah blah blah. Undeniably catchy, despite having no rhymes. I didn't even think about that until I heard it. Nothing at all that distinctive aside from how relentlessly it appeared on television and radio. Cellino and Barnes, injury attorneys, and then the number, which was just a bunch of eights that they had to buy that number. So, in the future, the jingle would spark singing challenges among Broadway casts and a spoof on Saturday Night Live. I remember Saturday Night Live. I didn't know it made all its way to Broadway. Um, that's interesting.
That's awful. I've never heard a combination of things that I would hate more.
When COVID-19 led to public health warnings to wash your hands for the length of time it sings "Happy Birthday," the Cellino and Barnes Twitter account suggested, "What do you think?" The song.
Of course.
So, uh, Barnes was a little less romantic about it. He said, "Jingles work." Right? No, of course. Why wouldn't Barnes be less romantic? The man is fucking zombie prepping in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, yeah. He's walking for 60,000 miles with the extra weight on his back.
Jingles work, he said. Is there a great magic to it? I don't know. I think there's been more said about our jingle because lawyers weren't doing jingles and now lawyers do jingles. Well, sounds about a correct take there, Barnes.
Sounds about right. Good,
Yeah.
good. Glad he's got some insight there.
Yeah. Uh
Local sociopath advertises to masses.
8888888888. So even with the ads, there's a specific client who really helped launch their financial success, named Mark Rappold. So he saw some of the firm commercials on TV. He'd seen the billboards. He wasn't thinking about any of that. In 1998, Mark's son, David, had been horribly injured in a car crash. David had just finished a year of law school. His friend was driving New York State Thruway. David was in the passenger seat. Someone tried to cut them off. They had some road rage going on, some tailing going on, and then there was a crash at 85 miles an hour. So, almost as fast as Barnes goes through the woods in Elkincott. I forgot where the fuck it's called, but you know what I mean. All right, with the 60-pound weight.
Hmm.
So David, the son of the future client Mark Rappold, has a massive brain injury, paralyzed through most of his body. Um, hard to feed, hard to groom himself. He could barely use a motorized wheelchair. So this is very serious.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, road rage is so dumb. It's just fucking testosterone on four wheels. So fucking
Telling you, man.
stupid. This
Cars
is
were
the
a mistake.
No, alpha males were a mistake. Cars are good tools. It just anything you
No.
put an alpha male in is shit. All right. So he didn't know what was in store, but he knew he needed a lawyer immediately. So he needs medical rehabilitation bills. He was unimpressed with the first lawyer, and someone mentioned a guy, Ross Cellino. So Rappold drives up to see Cellino, just drives up to his house. I don't know if you can do that anymore. Also, I don't know how he knew where he lived. I guess that's Buffalo.
I mean, listen, man. I'm sure back then it was probably listed in the freaking yellow pages or something.
Yeah, I don't remember the ad. I remember the phone numbers, but the address? I
Uh,
feel if you just ask three people in Buffalo, you'll find out where somebody lives.
yeah. I think word of mouth works there.
He just drives up to his house. Fucking drive by lawyer
Why
request.
not? Why
So he
not?
drives up to his house Sunday afternoon. Cellino was painting his house. His wife was gardening,
Classic.
and he says, "You can only imagine what Barnes is doing while Cellino's painting a house. Oh, pansy, painting the fucking house
Your wife
out here in the
gardens?
trenches." So he says, "Can I help you?" And he says, "Yes, I'm looking for a lawyer because my son was in a tragic car accident." And well, he dropped everything he was doing to talk to me. He didn't even think twice. Not surprised. The report was instant. "You don't even know he's a lawyer," says Rappold. "You don't even know it. He just talks like a person." Yeah,
Classic. A
yeah.
classic distinction between people and lawyers.
Mhm. You know that Western New York niceties, I suppose.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. So, they met a few days later with Barnes, and he says he was the opposite of Ross. So Rappold is commenting that Barnes is the opposite of Cellino, as we've seen so far. He was the opposite of Ross. I could tell he was power driven, Rappold says. But it worked. They complemented each other pretty good. I'll tell you right now, Steve, boy, he could really tear somebody apart on the witness stand. I'm sure he practices tearing in many different ways as
Undoubtedly.
well.
Undoubtedly. Both verbally and with assholes.
Tearing apart sheetrock. Ugh. So, and Cellino discovered the type of closing statement that made the jury melt. Nobody could talk to jurors like Ross Cellino. So the way he talked to them, the way he looked at them, the way he appealed to them, uh, and now he's quoting what was said in court. Don't Mr. and Mrs. Rappold deserve a chance to have a life of their own? But they can't have a life of their own without the resources to help him. So what Cellino and Barnes didn't tell Rappold is they also saw this as a huge financial case for them. So Rappold knew that they were gonna make some money, but
Hmm.
they didn't know that this was going to be like a precedent setting case. It
I
was
see.
They
Oh,
were planning to ask for 55 million for injuries to this person, which certainly are expensive, but 55 million is like you're gonna build a rehabilitation center, not just send someone to one. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
huge.
That's enormous.
You could buy Buffalo and the county that
That's
Barnes hikes to.
you could. I mean, and that's of course it's a lot of money today. Imagine
It's in
back
the
then.
90s, like
Tremendous.
1997. I was 6, you were like 4. 55 million. That could buy us like forget it. Like we would be the Power Rangers for 55 million. We would fucking be Pokemon. We could be anything we wanted.
Yep.
Um, so Rappo didn't like this. He thought it was a ludicrous, greedy amount of money. So he wasn't happy that he wasn't filled in. Like this was gonna make it look like more than just getting money for his son. This was gonna make it look like a money grab. So the trial would yield one of the largest personal injury verdicts New York had ever seen. So even though they asked for 55, they got close. They got $47 million for this.
That's pretty dang good. We'll call
Yeah,
80% pretty dang good.
yeah. Uh, so he says, so a Buffalo personal injury lawyer who's no fan of the firm said it really destroyed what was a close-knit community here among plaintiff's lawyer, he put it. The verdict was the bellwether. After that, there's no holds barred. So I'm guessing that what what happened after this is a lot of other attorneys saw, oh, I can make this money in Buffalo with
Yeah.
personal injury. And before that, it wasn't
Or
even
in
on
general.
people's
Or in
radar,
general. I mean, yeah.
or in general. But this guy, this lawyer that they interviewed about this other guy is speaking specifically to Buffalo, where they probably thought, I'll get a million and a few buffaloes and hike to Endicott, and then I'm good. And like that's as high as it's gonna get. So in the hallway after the verdict, Cellino and Barnes celebrate, but Rappel had no part of it. I would give every penny of that judgment back to have my son back. Well, of course, but you know. Cellino eventually noticed Rappel's pain, so Cellino's kind of sad that he feels this way. I know this is a hollow victory for you, he said. Steve Barnes, meanwhile, just partied on. An appeals court would later knock the judgment down to 16 million. Still a lot, but closer to what you might expect.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say it's necessarily a sensible amount because, oh my God. But
Yeah.
all right. I mean, you might expect to see that number in the event of someone's wrongful death.
Yeah, definitely nowadays. The the money still provides for Apple's David Rappels, the son's care, but it didn't make them rich. The firm ended up with 5.5 million in valuable publicity. That's still a lot for advertising and anything else.
Tremendous, tremendous.
Remember, we're back in the 90s. So now we're going to move to 2002. They opened another satellite office in Buffalo across the street from the area's largest trauma hospital. Wow. That's like
Oh my
that's
God.
like when they do the bail bonds like right across from the courthouse. They're
They
doing this
got they
like
got that in they got that in Santa Cruz. If you
yeah.
ever take a trip to Santa Cruz, if you go near the police department and the jail, there's a bail bonds place literally like next door to the jail.
But that's common. Like no one's trying to hide anything. We know you need to be bonded
We
and
know,
we know
yeah,
it's
yeah,
now.
they know you have to get bailed out, but
To
I
have it
mean, it's pretty
across from a
precious. It's pretty
hospital.
precious real estate, though. You know what I mean? That's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. It's like to go through all the effort to. Okay, I get it in Buffalo, maybe fine. I get probably not a lot of people are trying to live across from a trauma center, right? But in a town like Santa Cruz, where things cost a lot of money,
Right.
it's like, oh my God, okay, you really spent up for this one, huh?
Yeah. So by 2005, uh, wait. Yeah, so it had two huge red signs that lit up at night. So imagine being in a hospital and seeing those signs and be like, oh,
Just trying
maybe
to find
this.
some peace after being shot at, possibly hit. You're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, thank God I'm alive. Let me see what's out.
You might get so tired of it, you might be like, you know what, maybe this wasn't an accident. maybe, you know what? Maybe it's time I get some money off this. Uh, So by 2005, they had 40 lawyers now. And speaking of what the office across from Trauma Center looked like, it was like a hospital waiting room in there. Says B-Bay, the former Buffalo news reporter from the main office in Buffalo. People would come in crutches, wheelchairs, and everybody is going to get their piece of money. So now they expanded into mass torts, which I believe tort is a personal injury or a part of a civil suit, but usually injury. And mass torts, I think, is like a class action. So a large number of people who have suffered from something, and they, in this case, went for a class action or mass tort for heart attacks suffered and strokes after taking the prescription drug Vioxx. I don't remember that scandal, but anyway, seemed like they got some good money off it. So business was going well. In 2004, a top earner at the firm, this is separate from Cellino and Barnes, Joseph Dietrich, made nearly $1 million. And for a personal injury lawyer, that's crazy. It's like they're making money that corporate lawyers usually make. They're
Sure.
making it off personal injury.
Hmm.
So Dietrich left the following year, though, after making all this money. He left the following year, took his clients with him, and the firm sued, saying all those accident victims, they were clients because of our advertising campaign. So it's
Hmm.
almost like if if at any point a client was attracted to our firm and they go somewhere else, they want a part of it, even if it was with one of the attorneys that's no longer there,
Hmm. Wow.
because
That's
you
really
wouldn't have
that's really
even
ballsy too to go after a lawyer.
yeah. Oh, they don't because you wouldn't have even met this motherfucker if it wasn't for our 888 shit. All right.
At the rate that they're advertising, I almost kind of agree with them.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's so much of it is going towards that. It's tough. But at the same time, it's kind of like this. It's like if I'm a Yankee fan and a player that I really like goes gets traded from the Yankees, and a bunch of the fan base goes and like watches just for that player, and the Yankees are like, no, 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 you got to pay us some money too. It's like it's not really fair because they're saying, "Oh, you're getting revenue because of our old player who made it big with us. He
Yeah,
would
yeah, but
he
but
made it
that's
he
just
made it
playing the
big
game,
here."
isn't it? That's just playing the game.
That's what I'm saying. This is also kind of
Yeah.
part of the game. People leave, they start their own. So anyway, lawsuit also highlighted their aggressive tactics. This was something that they did regularly to maximize revenue. They would do this constantly. If you leave Cellino and Barnes, you're going to get a lawsuit
That's
because
crazy.
because we want part of your client's money. So this is changing just employment
Okay,
in
yeah,
general.
this is stepping into workers' rights violations territory.
Right. So this was becoming a general thing, and the firm itself had developed what a judge in one lawsuit called a reputation for stealing clients. And so it's ironic. They have a reputation for stealing clients, but they're suing people for stealing their clients. So that's what's happening now. But they don't
Hmm.
really care. It looks like they don't really care if they win or lose. They're just like throwing shit against the wall and seeing where can we get extra revenue.
And I'm sure it also sends a message to the other people working for them.
Right. Right. That you're gonna have to deal with this shit if you were to
Yeah,
leave and start your own
like
practice.
get ready for Barnes to breathe down your neck on the witness stand, you son of a bitch.
Free primal breath.
That primal need breath.
So, so after the Rappold judgment, this was the man whose son was incapacitated, seriously injured after a car accident.
Hmm.
Cellino and Barnes hired outside lawyers to keep the verdict amount from getting reduced. So they didn't want it to be reduced any further. And they billed the Rappolds $300,000 for their services. So the Rappolds just wanted to settle and moved on, but they were pissed that they wanted to extend the fight about the lawsuit. So they wanted to keep going, get more money
Sure,
from lawsuits. And
sure.
the Rappolds were like, "Yo, we're done. We did what we wanted to
Right.
do."
They got what they had what they thought was enough to take care of their son, and they're like, all right, 16 million is perfectly decent. We're out.
Well, so now the Rappolds are filing a grievance against the people who represented them, against Lino and
Oh my
Barnes.
God, Jesus Christ.
So Vincent Scarcella, so we got another upstate Italian, entered the scene. Uh, entered the investigation, head of the investigation committee. So he looked at the case at first, didn't see much, but as investigators rummaged through files, they found something else. The firm had been lending money to clients. This is not a normal practice. A law firm is not a loan office. So
Right.
the law firm is lending money to clients, not lending just services, but money, and they're lending money at interest rates of 19 to 24%
Okay, this is
through.
insane. And
Yeah,
are they lending money purely for the business of lending that money for anything, or are they lending it out for a specific purpose?
they're lending it to their clients
Yes,
who
yes, they're lending it to their clients, but for what purpose are they lending it?
I don't. It doesn't say as long as they're a
Okay,
client.
so maybe
As long
just
as they're a
in
client.
general, they're just giving them
Yeah.
advance. All right.
Well, a lot of their clients are not able to afford much. They could probably barely afford the legal services, and that probably drains them. Period. But Cellino and Barnes do operate on you only have to pay us if we win. But now that they have this other model, it's like they're trying to get money even before the judgment. They're just trying
Yeah.
to get money through their clients even beforehand through something else, through lending the money. Because a lot of them, that's the reason they go to Cellino and Barnes because they can't pay them up front. So they're banking on that they need the money. So it was, but they lend them through a separate company, a mortgage company that's owned by Cellino's cousin. So this is already starting to get a little nepotism-y.
Yeah, no, this is ugly. All right.
So lawyers, this is the thing, they regularly advance the clients the cost of litigation, but that's a service. You're not advancing actual cash. You're advancing the cost of your own little litigation services. You're not advancing actual money. So when they saw this, they when the attorney general saw this, they saw an issue. And Cellino and Barnes are basically saying, well, there is an industry separate from the attorneys that does this, that offers there's companies that lend money to plaintiffs. That's exactly their job, but they're independent of the attorney offices. And their interest rates are as high as 50%. So Cellino and Barnes aren't talking about right or wrong. They're just saying, yeah, but we don't charge 50% interest. We charge 19 to 24%.
I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. Is there a reason? Is there a reason for those other lenders to remain so separate and independent from obviously if they don't have to get involved with the
It's
case if they're independent, but like it doesn't. I don't know. I mean,
Well, think about it. If you are able to have a revenue model aside from winning court cases, winning the case becomes less like you get revenue regardless now.
right,
So it kind of does create a different interest. Like
right,
winning the case is as much in your interest as it is the client's interest because you get paid when you win the case. But
right.
now you're getting paid also
If your
prior.
clients, yeah, okay, yeah, and also if you also ostensibly if you lose the case and this person remains poor,
Right.
they now have to pay you a pretty
Right.
significant
And it's
chunk of
just
cash
gonna
in
add
interest,
up. So right, right. So
and
that's
you have
why
all the
it should
means
be
to sue
independent.
them for that money.
So that's why it should remain independent of it.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
So those loans are also legal because they're non-recourse, which means the plaintiff actually doesn't have to repay those loans if they don't win. That's the independent loan offering. So there's
I
a
see.
bunch of stuff here that's different in the legal model of this.
And the loans offered by Cellino and Barnes are not of that
I don't
category.
no, I don't believe no, those are you pay them regardless.
Oh
Okay, so
boy. Okay. All right.
they tried to paint their actions differently. The attorney general saw conflict of interest. Uh, and in the Rappold's case, they received assistance Cellino and Barnes to pay not only for David's nursing care but to build a cabin. I don't know where that falls into anything. But so the appellate justices looked into this and they agreed. They found against both Cellino and Barnes for making loans to clients with interest that both lawyers had participated in. Cellino and Barnes said, "This is funny to me. They were following legal advice. They are legal advice. Who are you following?"
well, well, yeah. I think this falls pretty solidly into they're just trying to throw shit at the wall to see how else they can make a shit ton of
Right.
cash, right? They don't. I mean, I'm showing them out a little bit that they couldn't continue doing this, so I'm sure whatever money they made off of it is like, all right, yeah, fine.
The justices then found a second infraction, a retainer
Oh,
agreement Cellino had filed with a new client that did not match the arrangement that actually took place. So Cellino tried to explain that it was an honest mistake, saying he had inadvertently signed a pre-printed retainer agreement, but the justice concluded he had a false document. Even then, it's like, I'm the lawyer. I gotta know the agreement. A pre-printed. What is this? Oh, Microsoft Word template? It's
it's
like I don't get what this.
it's interesting because I feel like I've seen and unfortunately had enough interaction with a handful of lawyers in
Right,
professional practice where his story is not entirely unbelievable. And the fact that it only happened
right.
once as opposed to very many times actually I think strengthens the possibility that it was a legitimate accident. I'm
No,
not
I
I'm not
believe
I'm
him.
not I'm
I
not
believe
trying
him in
yeah,
this case.
I'm not trying to give him any extra points where they're not deserved here because this is
Hmm.
already all pretty shady. But you know, I mean, sometimes you go, not even just lawyers. Sometimes you go to like pretty much any professional's office, right? And you walk in
Hmm.
expecting things to be like, okay, I'm seeing a pro for this. They're going to be well prepared, and you get printouts that look like your fifth grade algebra teacher's copies out
Right,
of a math textbook from the 1980s,
right.
and it's like, oh, okay, great. This is a copy of a copy of a copy,
This
right?
is
And like, if you can even make out the text on this, it wouldn't be correct.
this is the first Xerox.
Xerox from 44 BC.
Yeah. um. So yeah, no. Even later, the guy investigating him says he thinks it actually was a mistake. But still, it's not great if you're on the client end of this and you've
And
seen this
even
discrepancy.
if even if it is a legitimate mistake, um, it's the kind of thing that can't you know that doesn't mean that an infraction didn't happen, right? So I think it's okay. I think it's okay even if it is a mistake to
Right.
be calling it out, right?
Well,
It's a thing that needs to be handled because the record of this contract needs to be correct.
right, and well, this is why there's different grades of legal penalties for things. There's intent, just like I don't want you to extrapolate, but like even if we go as far to as murder, like you have different degrees for a reason. Like accidentally, I don't know,
Yeah,
hitting someone with something is different than doing it premeditated. So here it's like
Yeah.
if you did it by accident, it's not good practice. Like if a fucking doctor is supposed to give a vial of life-saving medicine that has fucking Pepto-Bismol in it, it's like, oh shit, I didn't plan on putting Pepto, but my intern clearly
Yep.
mixed up the meds and thought this was nausea, heartburn, and indigestion, and it's like fucking, you know,
Extra strength
aneurysm.
Pepto will melt your stomach if applied in high quantities. Yeah.
Um, so the other thing that Scarcella, who's investigating this, says is he didn't think Cellino was the only one involved in this, and he felt bad that Cellino's reputation took the biggest hit because he think Barnes was also involved. Okay, so Cellino actually gets
It would be
suspended. Okay,
amazing
yeah,
for Barnes to not be involved in pretty much anything going on here, right? I mean, this guy sounds like when he gets a whiff of something that could make him money or an ounce of protein, he's in there like swimwear. Like this guy wants a piece of it. So yeah,
you
I
gotta
agree with
you,
that.
you gotta get those macros, man.
You gotta get those legal macros
You
in.
gotta get those legal that guap macro. You gotta get all the macros. All right. So Cellino got suspended. I believe he got suspended for 6 months. So
Wow.
that rocked the firm.
It
Uh,
rocked the firm.
it rocked the firm.
Now wait, but I'm sorry. This judgment was about the infraction for the document and also because of the conflict of interest in the loans.
I think the conflict of interest in the loan resulted in uh,
Because
a
there's no way getting
fine.
a document wrong is a thing that suspends a guy for 6 months. Or if there is, I want to go back to that time.
Well, no. Um, the document seemed to be what did it, though. It may have been in combination with the previous infraction, but after all this, Barnes gets a censure, and censure is like people say you did wrong publicly. That's all a censure is, and
I
that's
mean,
what
yes,
happens
but
in
I imagine
as an
as an
attorney. It's not
extremely
good,
public attorney, right? Someone who's well
right?
known to the public and to the community
Yeah,
of lawyers, that is a bad thing.
but you're almost a celebrity at this point, and we know what happens when congressmen get censured. You get this whole group of people saying, there was a witch hunt against you" and all this shit. I'm sure he
Sure,
was
sure,
able to get
sure.
some of
Yeah,
that.
it's always going to be spun into, I've been wrong somehow, and they're very good at that because they're personal injury lawyers. but
Right.
but
And you've received
yeah, all right.
personal injury now to your ego and your career.
Yeah.
But so Barnes got after both of these infractions. Barnes gets the censure and Cellino gets suspended 6 months. Because I think his role in the retainer that didn't match was deemed as stronger,
But
even though the attorney that investigated him says in retrospect he still feels that both were involved and it was wrong that they got disparate punishment.
excuse me. So wait a minute. Barnes is not a lawyer, correct?
No, Barnes is of course Barnes is a lawyer.
Barnes is a lawyer.
Yeah.
Now I'm confused. Who's involved with this that is not a lawyer?
The no, Cellino and Barnes are both attorneys. The
Oh,
third
because Barnes has
guy,
been Barnes has been to legal. He went to school. He went to law school.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He went to they both I
Okay,
believe
okay,
they both
okay.
went to
Sorry.
the Rochester Law School. But the guy that I said mentioned back in the beginning who is still important to this, the guy who created the jingle is not a lawyer. He's an
Oh,
MBA.
well,
So he
yeah. All
but
right,
that's
that's
normal.
fine.
Yeah, so that was the guy who wasn't a lawyer, but they're both absolutely attorneys.
Okay.
So anyway, um they turn to Barnes' brother after all this because I guess they feel like they need more testosterone. And they entice him with a big salary, $350,000, and this is in the early 2000s, so this is a ton of money.
Yeah,
And
that's insane.
a 10% cut on the fees in the cases, and made new ads in preparation for a future as the Barnes firm. So
So Salino's getting dropped here.
well the hints of um, you know uh, the hints of the separation are being sowed, but
Okay,
it's
there's some
not.
foreshadowing happening here. Okay.
Yeah, but
All right.
this will be an issue. In the end, it took nine. So even though he's suspended for 6 months, it took 19 months for Cellino to be readmitted to practice law. So he's out of it for a while.
Why would that happen?
There were other issues that are just not disclosed, it says. We don't know what those are, but still, that's a long time.
There's other issues that are not disclosed. Meaning what? The investigator found other problems to keep him away from practicing law
I
for
don't think
19
so.
months.
I think it was something personal. Because the legal penalty was only 6 months.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting, but all right, fine. So this is about a year and a half now.
Yeah, so it's a year and a half. Barnes is preparing to make this the Barnes firm, and according to his father, so according to Cellino's father, so Cellino Senior says he spent much of his time in in the professional wilderness. I've never seen those. I thought I read that wrong, but no, the professional wilderness. That's different,
And
as opposed to the non-professional wilderness. I
I
don't
I
know.
guess just I guess just maybe figuring out what was right for him.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I never heard it called professional wilderness.
Yeah, that's some old people shit. I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, he said he was doing manual labor. He's also okay, so his profession is in the world. I see what he
Maybe
means.
maybe he finally finished painting that house.
He's building fences, planting trees, and helping out at Habitat for Humanity. So
Oh, this is great. I
so that's
love this
good.
guy away. I love this guy away from the law firm. That's phenomenal.
So so as Barnes would call this, soft shit.
Yeah.
Um,
Did he actually say that? Is that a quote?
no, no.
Ah, man,
I'm
that
just
would have been
saying he
great.
probably would be. So Cellino returns to the firm, and both he and Barnes agreed that his suspension shifted things. You think? But they didn't agree how. So Cellino, in retrospect, is saying, I didn't foresee the drastic effect on the suspension would have on Ross. I don't know. Barnes is saying this. And when he was finally reinstated from suspension, he was a changed man. I don't know. He did some actual altruistic work. God forbid.
Yeah, yeah. He's not just walking alone in the wilderness with 60 pounds strapped to his dick.
So Barnes is saying this in an affidavit later, because there's going to be a lot of affidavits later when this shit really goes down.
Oh, Jesus
Um,
Christ.
so so people didn't know what was going to happen when he returned from the suspension, and so it was a drastically altered environment. When Ross returned and withdrew his prior roles and duties from CMB, so I think Barnes is saying that Ross wasn't working the same way, essentially. That he wasn't working as hard. He wasn't working. He wasn't the Celino we
All
know.
right, all right. He had a taste of of helping people for reasons other than money, and that might have changed the man.
Right, right. So in an email sent after their relationship had deteriorated, Barnes went further. He always goes further. When we think he's already said something fucked up, it's like it's going back to like the Brooklyn standoff. Just when we think that guy Baker has said enough, it's like no, actually, wait a second, I got another one for you. It is ironic. So Barnes says in an email after the relationship deteriorated, it is ironic in the extreme, not just run of the mill ironic, in the extreme that you have become so bitter toward me, the one person in your life who made sure that you were welcome back to share in the bounty of this incredibly successful firm, the management of which you abdicated years ago.
All right, so we're getting into a small pissing match here.
Yeah,
We
it's
we got
just,
we've got some worthless statements coming out, much in the vein of modern politics.
I feel like lawyers can't just text or email simple shit. Like they can't just say, I'm here. I am in the location from whence. It's like they
Yeah.
just can't say simple shit.
No,
Okay. Yeah.
no, they can't.
Yeah. I will order this sofrito
No, it's all half of
burrito
half of
from
half of this
from
stuff
whence
is
it came.
half of this stuff is I mean it's theater, isn't it? It's theater.
Yeah,
Because
lawyers. It's
half
always
of,
theater.
isn't half of most of, especially in personal injury, half of their job is theater
Yeah,
in the first
I'm surprised they don't slip and fall themselves half the time.
place. That'd be an interesting fraud scheme. Slip and fall in your own highly successful personal injury firm and sue it for all its
In the
cash
courtroom in front of the judge.
as a tax exemption scheme.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So Cellino argued that he had a right to return and Barnes was less welcoming. In a 2018 deposition, Cellino says it took months to get Barnes to change the firm's name back to include Cellino. After his return, Cellino continued to be involved in many aspects of the firm, pursuing lines of credit, approving cutting ads, strategizing about expansion. But he wasn't settling cases, driving the firm's decisions. He said, I felt guilty making 8 million a year when I'm not producing revenue for the firm. See, he's like you said, he's starting to actually
He's
feel
yeah. I think
have a moral compass
we've seen
here.
some character development here. This is
Yeah,
very
yeah,
interesting.
there's some character absolutely. Um, but of course he denies abdicating anything.
All
So
right,
he
all
says
right.
part of the problem was the MBA. They said the guy was not a lawyer who's helping them with their um, jingle and their advertising campaign.
Okay.
Daryl Chambella. And the partners, so that's the guy partners hired with the business. So Celino's basically saying that Barnes is listening to him for the direction more than he's listening to Cellino. I was basically pushed to the side and not allowed to voice my opinion, he said. He believes it was Barnes who had changed. So Cellino doesn't feel he's participating enough, that his input keeps getting rejected.
Well, Barnes
Um,
definitely hasn't changed.
no.
I mean,
He says,
this is literally the guy he was looking for when he signed him onto the company.
right, he was looking for his opposite, essentially.
This is it.
Yeah,
And yeah, he's listening to the NBA because he's interested in making money, right?
right,
So okay, so I mean, you can't sue guys who leave the company because they got because you got clients due to his advertising, and then be mad that that same guy
right,
is being
right.
listened to because he's the one who came up
Exactly.
with the fucking advertising.
Exactly. So he's
So
being
what's
mad
his
at the
stance here,
system.
right? I mean, I'm happy he's look.
Right.
In fairness, I'm happy Cellino's having a you know
Come to Jesus.
yeah, a little bit of a come to Jesus, a little bit of a you know a faith religious moment here, but yeah, I mean, come on, really? You know, he's not. This isn't exactly the prodigal son.
Right. I
He's
mean, he
got
doesn't have to be here.
he's got his millions. I mean, unless he found a way to blow millions of dollars in Buffalo,
No,
New
no,
York
he's
in the
rich.
'90s.
You'll see. He's rich. He has a lot of money.
I'm sure he's well taken care of.
So Celino's venting. I enjoy coming to the office and interacting with staff and attorneys, but when you come to the office, Barnes, that he's saying, when you come to the office, you appear to remain in your office and rarely come out and talk to anyone. Of course, because he's the man of the wilderness. You don't need to talk to anyone.
Well, that's I mean that could be a million and two things. He could also just be getting shit done.
Well, I mean that's a work style thing too. But again, this goes to who the personality of Barnes that we seem to have gotten used to at this point. Dar so he's going. So Barnes is talking about Chambella,
In
the guy. Yeah,
I'm sorry. In fairness, I like this. I like this fact that Barnes is sitting in a room not talking to anybody because I when you started talking about him, I
yeah,
was like, if this becomes a firm and if there's people around and some of those people are women, he's going to
yeah.
start slapping asses.
That could have been a yeah. That could have been a
Like
problem.
I told you from the get go that guy was a sexual harassment case waiting to happen, and I still think
The primal urge cannot be
primal. Yeah,
restrained.
anyone talking about primal urges and women giving birth, I don't think can be
Yes,
trusted
yes.
around
These
women.
two things together.
I'm just saying.
God forbid a woman gets pregnant in the office. Anyway. So Barnes acknowledges Daryl, this is the NBA, can rub people the wrong way. But he likes working with him, and obviously this guy did help get them a lot of money and a successful advertising campaign. So adding to this tension is Barnes' girlfriend, Ellen Sturm, who he brought into the firm. So you'll see they're starting to bring like family and girlfriends into the firm, which always goes so well when
Oh
you
my
bring
god,
people
just
that you're connected to.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Just
they
ask
agree that
Yoko.
just ask Yoko. Yeah. So Cellino and Barnes agree Sturm, his girlfriend's credentials are impressive, especially for a personal attorney. Did very well. Also went to Buffalo. But Cellino clearly frustrated with her and claimed she would openly disparage him in front of lawyers. When you approached me about Ellen, quote, when you approached me about having Ellen join the firm, you assured me that your relationship with her would not interfere with the management of the firm. The statement was same statement was made about your brother. To your brother's credit, he did not interfere with the operation of the firm. The same cannot be said about Ellen. Salimo is able to like be very matter of fact and doesn't sound that mean. It's like he's just saying
I
facts.
mean, he's good at
Yeah.
being a lawyer. Right?
Well, but no, but not. But Barnes will be clearly pissed and angry. Salino is just like he's given the facts.
I, I, I mean, and I appreciate that, and that's fine. I mean, that's great. But I also feel like they probably worked up. There's an element here of like this worked really well because they're almost playing a good cop bad cop routine,
Kind of.
right? Isn't Cellino is Cellino not the one who knew how to talk to the jury?
To the jury, right?
And so to do that, you can be Barnes, you can be the angry guy, right? But I also think that if you let that go too far, you're going to turn people off because they're going to see
Right.
right through it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you're the person who can just sit there and state facts and then like hit people at the very end with,
Hmm.
and don't these people deserve to live a life, right?
Right.
Like I've just stated the facts, and I think these people deserve to live a life. Like I think I think they've made this dynamic work until right now when Barnes decides to be a dick about the you know
It's
about him leaving.
right. He feels that he can grow more without Salino. So this is a period of the period after Salino's suspension.
And I'm sorry
Yeah.
again. I just have to say to think that can grow the business more without Cellino. Why? Like until this point, right?
Right.
Cellino has clearly, aside from the last year and a half of his life,
Yeah.
solely been interested in making fucking bongo bucks, right?
Yeah. It's,
Like he has. They have officially put Buffalo, New York, on the goddamn map,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just these two guys. No one probably ever heard of it before. Certainly not for law purposes, right? You
Yeah.
got people driving up from God knows where to Buffalo ass New York, right? How do you think it could possibly if you can grow it better be by like a factor of fucking 10, right?
Uh-huh.
And I got to know what the hell you think you can get away with that a separate independent legal slash I don't know judiciary committee will not find out about and shut down like the loans thing.
Well, then it's too late because they're already in the Cayman Islands with a
I
fucking
look, and I get it,
untraceable.
right? They're out there on Epstein's island or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like but like I mean to have already come this far, to have already gotten this rich. I mean, I maybe we mentioned this. I'm sorry, but Cellino, you spoke about. Cellino is the son of someone who turned him, had a kind of a
Yeah.
rags to riches story,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
Cellino is kind of already coming from money. Barnes, do we know? Did you mention? I'm
Barnes'
remembering from
father
our
was
last
also a
session.
successful attorney too.
Also successful. So maybe there's a. I mean, on the one hand, maybe there's a sense of like they have no idea how much money they have because they came from money, you know.
I
But on
think
the but on the other hand, it's like I mean, you have to be at least a little bit good at math at this point, right? You can stop. Like if you were like fuck it, the whole thing, we're selling the business, we're out. You've made money, right?
but we know that's not how rich people think. Rich people are like, what is the ceiling here?
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
just
No, I
touched
mean that now I think it makes
just
more sense.
touched
Now
the sky. What's the
that they both
stratosphere like?
that they both come from money, I think supports this idea, right? That they just like Barnes is like, no, fuck it, we need to keep making more cash. But yeah, I just it's just funny because it's like at a certain point, I mean, you and I to give any potential future listener some insight into our lives. You and I were just talking earlier this week about Elon and
Hmm.
how you know I guess this will date the episode a bit, but he's somewhat recently purchased Twitter. And it's incredible that he spent $44 billion to tell people how divorced he is, basically, right? Like
Yeah.
this is now the most owned person in history. I've never seen Twitter talk this much about how owned a person is for this long, this consecutively. Like, I feel like we need to change topics because no one's ever had shit poured on them from a height this big and
Yeah,
for this long. And it's crazy because if I had like a fraction, a fraction
yeah.
of this dude's money, you would catch me never participating in society again
Nope,
because I would not need to.
we good.
I'd be very far away from it. I have no if you have a fraction of the money Elon's got, you have no need for internet. You don't need to talk to people. You can hire someone to talk to. Forget it. You it's books, books, music. You can tell bands, hey, I'll give you like more money than you ever made in your life to come to my fucking yacht and play this music, right? You can walk away from it all. But instead of ever choosing to
I need
do
my
that,
Sonos. We went over this.
instead of instead of ever, yeah, Evan doesn't agree with the no internet part. I'd be off
No,
the internet.
I
I'd be
want a
off the internet
ball.
in a second if I had enough
I
money
want
to
a
never
ball.
use it again,
You're gonna meet
right?
Barnes out there, no internet. You're gonna be rolling
No,
up to
I no,
Barnes at
I
some
looked it
point.
up. No, I looked it up. I know what happens to bars at the end of the story.
Uh,
Um,
okay.
we'll get there.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not meeting him anytime soon. So, but no, it's just anyway. It just it's just incredible to me when people have. I mean, maybe these guys don't have more money than God in the same way that Elon does, right? But like you've got enough to
At the
never work another day of
time,
your life.
for lawyers, they
At the
did.
time, a couple.
They
I'm sure a
at the
couple
time,
million.
early 2000s, for a personal injury lawyer. Yeah.
I'm sure at the time for a couple guys living in you know Western New York, which is not a place that sees a whole hell of a lot of activity, right? I'm sure they could do whatever they want for the rest of their lives and not be bothered by fucking anything ever again. And it's just crazy when I see people choose like literally any other life, you know?
And also, being a lawyer is not a very hands-off job. It's not like these businessmen that could just watch their money grow. Like,
No, no,
you have to
I have
come
to
in
imagine.
and
I have to
and
imagine it's
do
a
shit.
very, very annoying profession. You know what I mean? I've known people who go on to be lawyers, right? And they love law. Like that's their whole
Yeah,
thing
right.
is that they see the theory of law and
Hmm.
they love this social science of what it means, right? To be
Hmm.
governed by rules that barely exist, right? And then they go out
Like
into the
crypto.
practice and it just seems well, no, not quite like that. But
You have to
crypto
believe
doesn't
in it.
well, yeah, but laws have a benefit. Um, um, following laws has something of a benefit, at least ostensibly. But no, and then they get into a practice, and it's like I mean, it just seems like some of the most annoying work in the world because you have to keep track of how much time you're spending on every single case. You have to show up to public government buildings. I'm
Yeah,
sure
you got to show
plenty
up to
of the
court.
time. That's not exactly fun. Like if you gave me the option of showing up at the DMV for no reason, I wouldn't do it. Right? Pub
But
court can't be that much different.
but showing up at the DMV will never pay you the type of awards that they can get. See, that's the difference. But personal injury lawyers
Yeah,
actually like going to court. It's different than other lawyers who want to set. Most lawyers want to settle outside of court, but
I
personal
get no,
injury
I
lawyers
get
like
that.
going to court.
There's an incentive to do it. I'm not saying there's no incentive to do it. It's a job; they'll get paid. But it's more like,
Well, they want
man,
the big award from
of
the. They
course.
want the big judgment.
Of course, but I'm saying if you've gotten the big judgments, if you've gotten the big awards, and you could do literally anything besides ever have to go through that again, right? Besides ever doing paperwork again for somebody else, right? I'm just saying, in my world, I'm never doing that again.
But in this world, I mean, unless at this point they give it to other attorneys, which you'll see comes down the line as a point of contention, as long as they're running the show, you're only as good as your last big case. So they're constantly trying to be as good as their last big case.
Sure,
That's I
sure.
think what that's what they see. They don't want the Rephold judgment, which got knocked down to 16 million. They don't want that to be their last big case. So they want to expand. So also, so yeah, there's remarkable growth during this time. So now we're in 2009, and when asked which law firm they would hire in an event of accident involving injury, 4 out of 5 Western New Yorkers said Cellino and Barnes. That's a lot.
Yeah, all right. So they asked
Talking
all
like
15
80% here.
Western New Yorkers what they would do.
So for Cellino, it drove home how far the firm had come. Years ago, we would not have the assets to flaunt, and we tried hard to flaunt those attributes by carefully choosing our words. He's like, now we can do whatever the fuck we want. No, he doesn't
We
say
don't
that part,
carefully
but
choose our
that's
words
that's the
anymore.
that's the assumption. He sent an email to Barnes and Balta one time. They were finally living up to their hype. So now they open in the great city of Rochester. Uh,
Working their
they
way
opened
down.
that in 2000 actually. They opened in Rochester.
Can
That
I
was yeah.
can I
Tell
ask
tell
real
us about
quick?
Rochester. Yes.
I'm not. I have nothing to say about Rochester. I was going
Yeah.
to ask, can we make this a three-parter now that we're entering a new saga?
Oh, you gotta go.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's already
All
been an
right.
hour.
All right. We will continue next time.
All right, we shall
All
reconvene.
right.
Sorry, I know this is going to make cutting and editing a bit annoying, but
It's all right. It'll happen. The Dollop has an Aaron Burr episode that's 4 parts. I think I do want to make this one part though, but we'll see. All right. I'll see you
we shall
during the
we
week.
shall reconvene. Yes, sir.
All right. This was fun. All right. Till next time. Till the next cocktail. Mocktail. Hold on. I
Until
need
the next
to.
lawsuit.
Yes. Till the next lawsuit. Okay.